Okay, so let's talk about the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system and the ways that, stimulation of these different systems are going to cause changes to our different organs and to our body systems. And so we're going to start with the sympathetic side, and we're really going to start by talking about the neurotransmitters. So we have nerves that go throughout the body, and we have in each organ, there are receptors. These receptors respond to specific neurotransmitters. So you can see that the pancreas has receptors that will respond to the sympathetic side, but it also has receptors that respond to the parasympathetic side. It's just which one, is getting the neurotransmitters at that moment. And so we have to kind of start with what are these neurotransmitters. So on the sympathetic side, we're really going to focus on epinephrine and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine, norepinephrine. To a certain extent, dopamine is also involved, but we're not really going to focus on that. Now, on the parasympathetic side, the neurotransmitter that's going to go down and target the receptors of on these organs of the parasympathetic side is going to be called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine. All right. And so when we think of this, the receptors that epinephrine and norepinephrine, the receptors that these, are going to go down and react with are going to be called adrenergic receptors. Receptors. So, adrenergic receptors, these are what again, epinephrine and norepinephrine are going to be targeting. And then when we have our acetylcholine is targeting our cholinergic receptors. So, with our acetylcholine responding to, or acetylcholine going down and influencing the cholinergic receptors, epinephrine, norepinephrine, the adrenergic, dopamine responds with the dopaminergic receptors, but don't worry about that. So, what is going to happen when we do stimulate these different systems? So, when epinephrine does get, sort of sent into the system, what's going to happen? It's going to cause this sort of side of things. We can see the dilation of the pupils. So the sympathetic, remember, this is the fight or flight. And I always liken this back to our sort of ancient, our ancestors way long ago. Some saber-tooth tiger goes to go, attack them. What's needed in order for my ancestor to fight off that saber-tooth tiger or to run away from it? First, we need to dilate the pupil. This allows more light in, more ability to see what they're trying to, see more, right? We don't really need to salivate at that moment. So we're going to inhibit that salivation. This is going to, again, be something that we need for digestion, but not when I need to fight or run away. Increase the heartbeat. Well, that makes sense because I need more blood flow to the different areas like my muscles and my legs or my arms, right? I am going to relax the airways, which opens them up, allows for more oxygen to come in, right? I don't really need the stomach activity. Again, I'm not digesting, I'm not resting or anything. That's going to be the parasympathetic side. I need that to kind of blood flow to not go there and for the stomach to not do anything. Same with the gallbladder that's involved in digestion. Same with the activity in the intestines. We're inhibiting all of that with this. We're going to secrete more epinephrine and norepinephrine from our kidneys. This is going to keep increasing that sympathetic response until we don't need it anymore, until I'm away from the saber-tooth tiger or I have defeated it, right? And we're going to relax the bladder, right? Again, not important now. So with our sympathetic fight or flight, everything is about increasing blood flow to the areas that are going to be needed to, fight or flight. Whereas parasympathetic, we have our rest and digest. Now that we've defeated or ran away from our, saber-tooth tiger, I maybe need to kind of relax, recuperate from this. I might need to eat to restore all of those things that I just lost with that fight or flight. So now is when the parasympathetic side, the acetylcholine, is going in and reacting with the cholinergic receptors on these organs and causing the pretty much the opposite here, right? It's one of these cases where now my pupils are constricting, right? My salivation is increasing so that it can start digestion. I don't really need that high heart rate anymore to get to those muscles, so we're going to decrease that. We'll constrict those airways. We don't need all that oxygen coming in like we did before. We are going to activate the stomach. We're going to activate and stimulate the gallbladder and the intestines, bringing all that blood flow to those areas to pick up that nutrients, contract the bladder, kind of push out that urine that's in there. So all of these things are responses by the nervous system depending on the different reasons for these to be activated. And you can think of them almost like dimming switches, not light switches where it's on off. You can think of them as dimming switches where it's like kind of some of this, some of that, and it's kind of a balance here. Which one is more important than the other? And so this is how our system works. Now, with pharmacology, it gets very interesting because I can kind of use pharmacology to hijack this system or this system and make these sort of reactions occur, right? Epinephrine, if I give epinephrine to a patient, that's going to increase their heart rate. It opens up their airways. Both of these are going to be helpful with, an anaphylactic patient, for instance, right? So there's reasons why I might give that. Now, acetylcholine, when we think of our cholinergic stuff, at least in the emergency sort of world in medicine, not necessarily trying to stimulate that, but I am often trying to block the parasympathetic side. So something like an atropine or an atrovent is going to block acetylcholine, or it's going to block the cholinergic receptors. And so I effectively am going to stop constriction of the airway. And if I give this with something like albuterol, that's also going to work on the sympathetic stuff. I'm enhancing my relaxation. So the combination of these two things winds up making for greater bronchial dilation. So this is how pharmacology can really hack these things and make these two systems really work for us.